The skills for Bertrand and Tohar have been released, along with a bunch of additional information about the upcoming seasons. So in this video, I'm going to review these two new heroes, and although this won't be a full guide, it's going to give you the information you need to decide, should I work on these heroes or not? And the short answer is yeah, work on them both and pair them together. That's what they're designed to do. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and today's video is sponsored by the makers of Call of Dragons. And it's funny because I have reviewed dozens and dozens of commanders in the predecessor to this game, Rise of Kingdoms. So I know exactly how to look at skill combinations like what we've been given here with Bertrand and Tohar, which are definitely different than what you might have expected your mages to do. I mean, you can see on the screen, this is pretty vanilla single target damage. Now, is that good? Is that bad? We're going to talk about it, but my general sense in this game is that, yeah, the new heroes are pretty good. And generally, the design of the heroes is really shoving you in the direction of just pairing them together, right? Pair them together, use the new artifact, and collect victories. And that's, I think, the same truth for these two new heroes, and I'll explain that in a more nuanced way. Let's get to it. So the active skill, when you have him awakened, is 1500 damage factor and consumes all stacks of golden mark, increasing damage dealt by 5% per stack. Now, in case you were wondering what the golden mark is, whenever your hero does skill damage, he gains 1 stack of golden mark for 5 seconds, and you can have 3 stacks. Each of these marks is giving you 10% skill damage dealt. So you can get it up to upwards of 30% skill damage dealt, which is pretty cool. This only triggers when you are doing hero skill damage. However, and this is sort of weird because he only does hero skill damage once. So where are you getting all these extra triggers of the hero skill damage from if this only lasts for 5 seconds, which the buff only lasts for 5 seconds. So if you want to have these stacks accumulated by the time he's using his active skill, you're basically going to have to pair with Tohar. Okay. Technically, there are other mages that have other ways of doing hero skill damage. Like, for example, Lilia has a Scorch effect, which presumably would trigger compound interest, which gives you a golden mark, but I don't actually know for sure. Okay, so we don't exactly know how this is going to work, but I'll show you in a second why the slam dunk obvious choice here is just pair with Tohar and again, collect those Ws. Okay, from here, Magic Circle. All magic units in Bertrand's Legion gain 25% magic attack and 10% magic enemy unit defense penetration. This is fine. It's stats. The amount of stats is good. Let's continue on. These are all very offensive, by the way. Nothing tanky on this hero, by the way. This dude is I think the definition of a glass cannon. Even when we get here, we'd still call him a glass cannon. Okay. While in the field, Bertrand's Legion deals has 15% more attack and defense if they have not taken a normal attack in the last 3 seconds. So the significance of this is that when you're not getting targeted, you have more defense and attack. So when is that good? Well, I mean, the defense does help if you're taking area of effect skill damage. Remember, a normal attack is when you are directly targeted by someone else's march. That is what a normal attack is, okay? Yeah, I mean, this is fine. Like I said, glass cannon, and last but not least, the awakening skill is making it so his active skill is going from 1300 damage factor to 1500 damage factor. 200 damage factor for an awakening skill? I mean, it ain't much. It ain't much. I do like this, though. I mean, you're really going to see the full effectiveness at the 1500 damage factor. And as far as heroes go, 1500 damage factor seems to be kind of an upper bound of what we typically get. Emrys has 1500 damage factor. I think Bakshi has 1500 damage factor, and he gives you 30% HP for 5 seconds. So 1500 damage factor seems to be kind of that upper limit. And you do get this bonus effect of hey, if you did build up stacks, you get to do some extra damage. Now, it is worth mentioning he has magic, PvP, and skill tree. And I do generally like the combination of magic and skill for just really strong talents. Now, one thing we do need to talk about is the fact that he's a flyer. And the fact that he's a flyer is freaking sweet. He literally summons a magic little pony to ride in the battle. And that's cool, man. The thing I will point out, however, is that he wants to be paired with someone that does tons of different sources of magic hero skill damage. I guess technically any hero skill damage, but like magic hero skill damage. And you might think, oh, flyers. So do we pair with Thea? And I would say Thea's like a pretty mid-tier pairing. Like, yeah, you're going to do it. And there aren't that many flyers to pair with right now anyways. It just is what it is. Like when we got Ferondale flying cavalry, like, yeah, I mean, you could pair with Thea. Like, obviously when you're running around trying to ambush people, you're not like, you know, trying to like hit them with damage and then protect yourself with a shield. This is a complete opposite of what you're trying to do. And Bertrand, like you're trying to avoid taking damage. So like, you know, shielding yourself, I guess, reduces the counterattack damage you're taking. But the point I'm trying to make here is you need to pair Bertrand with someone who has many sources of skill damage. Thea does not do that. Even Atheist has like one source of skill damage. So you're really not even going to get the benefit of this skill, compound interest, all that much. You're going to need to find other ways to do hero skill damage. I would assume from talents might be a way to get that solved. I don't think pet skill damage will qualify to trigger this, but like this is sort of thing I always like to test and see before I would necessarily conclude that. So Bertrand is going to be good. And I think there's not as much synergy with some of the existing heroes as, you know, like for example, Thea. But that was also, like I said, the case with Cavalry when they arrived, and Ferondale's still fantastic, right? So generally speaking, I feel like flying marches aren't really going to pop off for another, like, it might be a couple years before we have like a lot of different flying hero options. We just don't have that many right now. So like, who are you going to pair Bertrand with that flies? There's not that many options. Now that said, you should be excited to pair Bertrand with your new local neighborhood cow, Tohar. Tohar is really weird, and he is your new garrison hero, and he's weird because he doesn't have an active skill. Literally, it says passive skill. This is where the active skill is supposed to go, okay? And it says passive skill. So this is weird. I have no clue how this works. There's no precedent for this in Rise of Kingdoms, but there's a ton of precedent about the way he deals damage, which is definitely weird. So let me explain this. After every 5 normal attacks, Tohar channels Rage of the Plateau, dealing damage to the target legion every second for 5 seconds, but moving interrupts your channeling. This is weird because you're going to get this every 5 seconds. And the question I would have is, so let's see, is there a cooldown on this? Is there a cooldown on this? Does this basically mean that once you start attacking someone, okay, you normal attack 1 second, normal attack 2 seconds, normal attack 3 seconds, normal attack 4 seconds, normal attack. It's now been 5 seconds. On second 6, you do 300 damage factor. On second 7, second 8, second 9, second 10. Wait a minute, that's another 5 seconds. Do we get a new proc on Earth Conduit? I've now done 5 normal attacks. So if you have 100% uptime on 300 damage factor per second, that's actually insane. That is actually completely insane. That is broken strong. That is a stupid amount of damage. Like, just think about that for a second. Now, he is a garrison hero, right? So he's designed to be in a situation where, hey, come at me, bro. I'm not moving anywhere. That's insane. Now, we got to actually see this, like, fully in action. Because if you can't reinitialize, like if there's an internal cooldown on this, which would be critical to list if there was, but if there's an internal cooldown on this, then like, obviously this is way less insane. So like wait until people unlock it the day that he shows up in game, and like we'll test and we'll see how it works, right? But like that could be absolutely cracked to basically be like, yeah, for the first 5 seconds of your fight, yeah, I mean, you're not doing anything. And if you had to generate rage to use an active, skill, like you also wouldn't be doing anything over here, right? But if after only 5 seconds, you start doing 300 damage factor per second, even if it is a 5-second internal cooldown, it's still really good. Like this is actually still really good. The only weirdness is your enemy can just walk away from you. And if they walk away from you, this sucks because then you got to channel all over again. So that's the way and sort of which this is balanced, is like, if your enemy lets you stand still, this is OP. This is really silly. Like, it's so strong, potentially. But if they don't let you stand still, and they shouldn't, like, yeah, you may not get this to trigger much at all. And that's the sort of ebb and flow. But like I said, hey, wait a minute. So Bertrand, every time you deal skill damage, remember that second skill? You get one of those marks that makes you do 10% more skill damage. I bet you every single one of these triggers gives you one of those marks, so you get your max of 3 stacks. That's the, I think, club me over the head and just tell me to pair the 2 new heroes together. All right, that's it. That's what I think you're supposed to do. Now from here, defensive fortifications. Increase the attack of Tohar's garrisoned army by 20% when they're at a city or stronghold and have over 50% of units remaining. Heroes that work this way are kind of weird. So over 50% of units remaining, weirdly enough, in this game, I feel like is really good for a stronghold. Like in Rise of Kingdoms, you'd be like, oh, that's terrible. You'd never use that. But in this game, I think that actually works, assuming that when you look at the garrison, it shows you the percentage full that it is. I think in this game, the percent full is actually like the garrison can hold 1 million troops and you have 1 million. So it shows as being completely full. In Rise of Kingdoms, they count the slightly wounded units as well toward that percentage of what's in the garrison. So if they count the percentage of slightly wounded units as well, then this skill is just bad. Like, this is actually just bad, which is why I don't think they're doing that in this game. So TLDR, I actually think this is good for a stronghold. Keep the damn thing full and you'll be fine. For defending your city, I mean, once you get below 50%, get wrecked. I still think he would be a really good choice. And it says garrisoned army attack, so it doesn't say physical or magic. So all your troops get the benefit of this. And I made a dedicated video yesterday talking about defending your city. I'll have a card in the end screen. Very important video to actually understand how that works. But anyways, check that out after this one. Shamanic Mastery. 30% magic unit hero skill damage bonus. Just, I mean, you've got to pair with a magic damage dealer here. Very curious. It makes sense for the open field, but when I think about defending my city, it's like, huh, okay. So magic hero skill damage boost, but you do 5% less normal attack damage. So you're all about hero skill damage, which, like, again, if I understand that active skill or the passive main skill correctly, like, you are doing insane amounts of damage if you get to stand still. If you get to stand still. All right. From here, Plateau Protection. While channeling Rage of the Plateau, Tohar's Legion gains Unyielding and Shelter, 15% less counterattack damage taken. So when you hit an enemy, you take counterattack damage. And 35% defense is, like, just really good all around. So the Awakening skill, after you finish channeling Rage of the Plateau, his Legion gains Keen Attack 35% for 3 seconds. Even if this main skill doesn't work the way that it seems to imply it would work, where there's no internal cooldown, let's say there is an internal cooldown, it's still pretty good. All right, it's still pretty damn good. I overall think this hero is very strong. I think in the field he's going to be strong. I think in the garrison he's going to be strong. And I think these two heroes are just very, 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 very obviously designed to be put together. And even though, like, okay, sure, like, this skill is designed for being in a garrison, like, bro, Sindrian has a skill that's designed for rallying, and he still is amazing in the open field. Like, absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, no, Tohar and, not Bertrand, oh my gosh. Tohar and, oh yeah, it is Bertrand. GG. They're going to be good together. They're going to be really good together. And, you know, single target damage is really weird. What do you do with your Lily and Velen? I mean, I think you just keep them paired together. And they're kind of designed to be together. Like, you can pick talents that are focused on area of effect damage, and you can really move in on crits and crit damage. I think you do that with them. And I think these two, you just smash them together. Now, hey, look, I'm not saying these would be bad if you split them. Like, will Bertrand be great with Lily? Sure. Or with Velen? Yeah. I mean, I think they'd be fine. The only weirdness is this skill right here. And we just need to understand how many ways can we find to get the triggers over here and see the mark. Like, I want to see in the battle log that I'm getting these stacks before I conclude like, oh yeah, that overlap actually works. Okay. So again, all in all, very, very strong. Do you need Tohar? Do you need Bertrand? I certainly think it's great to unlock them if you have the opportunity, which like you can buy your way into Tohar at the start of the season. Do I think that every player needs to have Tohar? Probably not. In terms of a garrison standpoint, I actually think you're going to use Tohar primary and Bertrand secondary. And the weirdness here is that Lilia and Velen, like they do area of effect damage, but their damage factor is kind of too low for garrisoning, in my opinion. And the overwhelming majority of his kit works in the garrison as well. So I don't think you would mess around with that combination. Like even in the garrison situation, like I think you just put these two together and you just call it a day, man. I think they're going to be good. Theoretically, you could consider using Garwood, and like I would need to double check his full kit to see how that works out. But like Garwood is healing, which doesn't have synergy with your bonus magic hero skill damage anyways. So yeah, I don't know. Let's get a look at the artifact here. So we got a new artifact, obviously designed for these mages. And what does it do? You deal damage factor, it's magic damage factor, to the target, 1,500. And you knock 2 enemy legions near them airborne and deal diffused damage to them. That's 1,000 damage factor a pop. So the other thing this does is every time your legion gains a buff through a hero skill, they deal 7% more artifact skill damage, maximum of 21%, and a duration of 20 seconds. So this also is an attack artifact for what that's worth. So the dust and the stars are giving you attack, which like, okay. This artifact, you wouldn't garrison with it because it does literally nothing when you garrison. This is an open field artifact. You can't activate your artifact when you're garrisoning, right? So there'd be no reason to do that. But in the field, this is pretty good. We all could hope to have 1,999 of these to play with. This is how you know this. This is recorded by the developers in a test server, by the way. The knockup is insane. Knocking legions airborne is really good. Yeah, this artifact is very, very, very good for the open field. And a knockup effect is extremely good considering that you want to stand still to do your damage if you're going to pair with Tohar. So whether you're using this on Bertrand or Tohar, like this is going to be really good to keep your enemies in position, ideally. Even if you have to like switch targets, you know, mage range is really long. The only question will be how long is the range of this artifact? And if it's, you know, like the Phoenix Eye, holy cow, like a stun at that range is insane. So yeah, I think this artifact is going to be outstanding. Do you need it for Lily Velen? You know, not necessarily. I mean, the weirdness here is gaining a buff effect. Well, wait a minute. How are you gaining buff effects anyways on mages? Most mages aren't buffing themselves, are they? So, Tohar, does he buff himself? I don't know. I can't remember, but Bertrand certainly does. He's gaining all those marks, right? You're pairing the two of them together so you can get all those marks. So, like, the Mirage Orb feels, like, strangely honed in on, like, yeah, you use Bertrand, you use Tohar together, and, like, you use this artifact. Like, the devs are really shoving us in, like, the direction of, hey, take the new stuff, use it together, I think. I think that's what this design is telling us to do, but certainly more evaluation could come up with something else. And, like, I guess if you're pairing, you know, still with a hero like Hosk is buffing. So maybe in that case, actually, if you're using Hosk, this could be pretty good as well, right? Because he buffs himself on the active skill. That's hero skill buffs. And also, if you have him awakened, that's another place. Thea shielding herself qualifies as a buff. So, you know, if you're using Thea, that'd be another way to do it. But, you know, I really feel like slamming all that new stuff together that's going to be best. Now, 2 new war pets were announced, but really no information was given about the way that they work or what they do. I would assume that this is going to be a magic flying pet that will go with Bertrand. And I would have assumed that the Bruinbear would be going with Tohar, because in the picture of, you know, when they showed these initially, like they were standing next to each other. But I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little bit worried about the Bruinbear because if we look at the attributes here, It's strength, agility, endurance. If I were betting money right now, I would bet you that this is actually a pet that is going to go with Goresh and Skogul, which is going to drive me a little insane because, like, but I just made a venomous lizard and spent a ton of things making the venomous lizard good. But here's the thing, okay? If we look at what they're saying should be on this pet, there's a new feature they're adding, okay, that lets the game recommend skills. If these skill recommendations by the game are correct, then this is a pet that's all about dealing damage. Now, how does it deal its damage? The talent skill is quickening, I believe. Terrible quickening modifies it in some way. Forceful quickening modifies quickening in some way. We don't know exactly what way. But here we see that the Bruinbear is infantry fighter tank. Oh, yeah. So this is definitely for freaking Goresh and Skogul. OMFG. I do like my venomous lizard. I did put 2-star skills onto it, though, and it's like, okay, get ready to catch a new pet for the infantry. We'll see exactly kind of what the full kit ends up looking like. I would assume this is going to be meta, and my hope is that because they've released 2 pets in this season, maybe in the future they'll only be releasing 1 pet, so that, like, they're finally, like, caught up to, like, oh, hey, like, we gave you new heroes. Obviously, you need to have pets for them. Instead of being able to use them in the season you're in, and, like, you have to just invest in a pet that literally a season later, we're going to give you a better design of pet. Hopefully, we're now caught up, so that isn't a thing anymore. Because, like, bruh. My general feeling on pets is, like, shouldn't I become emotionally attached to them and love them forever? Isn't that the whole point of, like, calling it a pet? I'm supposed to love you forever and cherish my relationship with you, right? And remember you forever in history. Yeah, you know? You should be buried next to me, right? There are a bunch of new artifacts on their way also. Artifacts that I couldn't tell you what they do, so I can't tell you how exciting they will be, but I suspect they'll be pretty damn good. These are coming specifically from the Forge. So there's something else you can get now besides the generic things from the Forge. Do I think this is cool? Yes, but the kinds of people who are generally going for the Forge don't really need these epics anyways. So I hope I'm wrong on that one and that these are dope. Even this one's like Sermon of Force. It's March Speed. There's cool potential here, okay? March Speed, we got a magic attack item. We've got a marksman item doing AoE, but you know, like each of these I think has some additional effects, and like I don't know what they do. Until I know what they do, it's kind of hard to say. Guardian's Runic Longsword looks pretty cool. Sunflame Hammer. I think this might, I mean, you call it a hammer, I assume it's going to stun, so that'd be kind of cool as well. We do have a new Infantry City theme just around the corner. Definitely hyped for this. Infantry hit points is spot on, and it looks pretty cool. The Auspicious Rain gives 5% infantry hit points and 5% cavalry unit defense is what you lose. I think this is an awesome pickup. This is a slam dunk for me for open fielding. I used 2 infantry marches. What are we talking about? Will I in the next season use 2 infantry? I mean, infantry are so good I probably will, although like I'm running out of things to use in the open field. You see what I mean? Like, I want to use Sindri and Frhagar. I want to use Nico and Kanara or Posk. You pick your 3 that you like there. I want to use Lily and Velen. I want to use Bertrand and Tohar. Well, wait a minute. That's 4 marches. But then I have Goresh and Skogul. And I have Madeline and Garwood. And like, yo, you better believe that infantry front line, that gets the job done. That's the real secret to winning in this game. Have you figured that out yet? Pro tip, throw a like on the video, consider subscribing. There it is. Infantry wins seasons. It's big, man. You want to win field position? Infantry. Bro, holy cow. They soak so much damage. And people are like, wee, target the infantry. It's okay. Do whatever you want to do. So anyways, I will almost certainly be picking this up and then scratching my head on what do I do with... I guess I drop an Archer March, but like Kanara's good. Dang, is what it is. In this new season, we're also going to see some new policies. These policies include some things we've seen before, so all this looks familiar-ish. But then There's a ton of stuff in here, like solid armor, defensive pushback. Oh no, those are the same as well. It's over here. Infantry drills, cavalry drills, marksman drills, magic drills. This is where like you're really specializing. Let me tell you something. Like, I'm toward the end of the season and I barely had enough policy currency to do all the things I needed to do. So like, I guess we're not supposed to max policies. Certainly not by the time we're having meaningful fights. Cursed swords. What does this do, though? This is a big question mark for me. Like, it's O of 1. Bro. They're going to make it so you can get, like, 6 marches in the field or something. I bet you there's going to be like, hey, you could use 6 marches. At some point, I will bet you money that's going to happen. I will actually, like, okay, I won't actually bet money because I don't know if I'm allowed to do that. But, like, I would. I think it's happening. I think at some point that will happen. Anyways, cursed swords, there it is. What does that do? O of 1. 1 level. What do you guys think? I don't know. Subscribe. I'll definitely be streaming when we enter the new season. Okay. Now, there's also season talents. Season talents, I think, can be cool. But the weirdness here is like, I don't know. It looks like there is a reset button in the upper right. How often can I reset them? What is the cost of resetting them? I have a lot of questions about talents, but let's get a look at what we can see so far. So there are 4 trees. You can only pick 1 from each row. And by the way, we've seen something very similar in Rise of Kingdoms to this. This is very, very similar in the predecessor to this game. So what does this do that they're showing us? Glory Bound. During this season, you will gain 1 stack of Glory Bound for every 200,000 merits you receive. Oh, increasing damage dealt? Dude, that's a good one. That's a good one. Up next, Cavalry Vanguard. When your cavalry units launch an unyielding rush, that's when you charge a ranged unit. The rush speed and range is increased by 50%. Wow. Okay. That's insane. That's actually insane. Rebound. When your infantry units come under attack from ranged units in the field, they have a 10% chance to reduce damage taken by 20% and deal counterattack damage to their target. Okay. That's insane. Wait, how many times can that trigger per second? Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. And then the top talent here, Martial Fortitude. When your infantry or cavalry units launch a melee attack at the ranged legion in the field, they take 15% less damage from that legion. That's probably better for cavalry than infantry. Like infantry, it's not about how much damage I take from the legion I'm targeting. It's about how much damage I take from the 500,000 things targeting me because I'm playing my infantry correctly. Now, here there are a bunch of quests they're showing, which is how you ultimately get these talent points. So let's look at this. Defeat 500 Darkling Patrols. Upgrade 3 heroes to level 50. Occupy 11 villages at the same time. 600,000 merits is super achievable. Fearless Blade. Reach the top 20 in the personal glory point rankings after Augerstone's. Holy cow. Reach 100. Top 100 in the personal glory rankings after the Augerstone stage Silent Celebration begins. Some of these, like, I don't know, some of these are obviously a competition for who actually can get that far. They also, by the way, during the video showed a couple other things here. So this increases turret shields by 20%. In the upper left here for ranged assault, increases your hero skill damage by 1.5%. That's like not that much, but okay. This is not 15, it's 1.5. All right. And they did click on the little question mark up top. So let's see here. There are 4 unique branches of season talents. Each branch has 4 levels, basic, standard, advanced, and super. Each branch must be leveled up in order, beginning with basic and moving on. You can only activate 1 talent on each level, which I mentioned. Different talent levels have different talent point costs. Yeah, so the cost is going to go up. It goes from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Talent points can be obtained by completing season talent quests. You can obtain 21 talent points. Basic talents can be activated immediately. Higher level talents can be unlocked as the Augerstone progresses. Season talents can only be used on the world map and not in other gameplay modes. Interesting, maybe you have to scroll down to see how resetting works, but like the thing I want to know is, like, how does resetting work here? In Rise of Kingdoms, you can't reset. Like, they're like, hey, pick your talents, you can't reset. Here, there is an option. So I wonder what that is. Now, if we just look very simply at the maximum of 21 talent points that you could get, we can see that you need 4 plus 3, so 7. So you only need 10 to max a branch. Is that right? That feels pretty low to me. 3, 6, 10. Yeah, you only need 10 to complete a branch. So theoretically, you could complete 2 of these branches and then get the first level of another branch. Or theoretically, you can go down multiple branches a couple levels if you wanted to. I'm sure I'll be making a video about talent builds for this once we actually have access to it in game. They also did show us the top talent for the remaining trees. So Suppressive Fire is the ranged assault talent. Every time your ranged legion deals normal attack damage to the target's march speed and rage accumulation speed is reduced. Oh, wow. So it's a stacking debuff. That is insane. That is insane. Suppressive Fire is like a slam dunk. Oh my gosh, that seems good. That seems really good. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Okay, what else? We have Breaching Strike. When your legion launches a normal attack, they have a 10% chance to reduce the target legion's defense. Okay, that's pretty good. They're not calling it a defense break, so that's also good. It would presumably stack with defense break. It lasts for 10 seconds and you get 10 stacks. So you can reduce the defense of the target by an upwards of 5%, right? And it's when your legion launches a normal attack. So this is also like really good with Sindri and Freygar. Multiple legions can add stacks by attacking the same target. Each new stack resets the duration. Yeah, that seems really good for Sindri and Freygar. Like really, really, really good. Okay. And Alliance Protection. When your legion is gathering in Alliance territory, it cannot be attacked. While it's in combat, it cannot enter resource points in the field. Wait, what? When your legion is gathering in Alliance territory, it can't be attacked. And when you're in combat, it cannot enter a resource point. Huh. Interesting. So, I mean, like, definitely I'm not doing battle preparation. Why would I do that? Okay. Well, I mean, I guess if you can reset these frequently and it's like, we're just, you know, I guess it all depends on how frequently you can reset these and what the cost is of that. I would assume there is a cost and an 8 free, right? So anyways, if you enjoyed the vid, throw a like on here, consider subscribing. I think this update's pretty cool. I'm generally speaking hyped for these new heroes. I think people will probably underestimate them because when you first look at their kits, it's like a little bit underwhelming. But then when you actually take some time to understand them, this is true with Sindrian and Freygar as well. Right? Like I had the same reaction. But now I've learned, like, nah, I mean, when the developers put new heroes in game, they're probably good. And they're probably best to pair together. But exactly how that's going to be, hey, I'll tell you what. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. We're going to figure it out. I'll unlock them both. Will I work on Tohar? Oh, God. I mean, this video is already like 30 minutes. So, like, I don't know, man. But am I going to use him to defend my city? And do I think he will be used to defend garrisons in a game mode like Roots of War? I think that in Roots of War, he is going to be pretty decent. I don't think he's going to be amazing necessarily. Against a rally, he's really strong. There's no doubting it. But like also, I'd probably send Sindri and Freygar after some of these guys. And like, oh, Sindri and Freygar is going to do work. But if this has no internal cooldown, he honestly could just be meta for just about every garrison. Like, if this has no internal cooldown, I feel like the damage is just too high to ignore. The weirdness is that when you're defending your city, only your magic units contribute to this magic damage. And, like, who are you going to pair with for city defense is kind of a weird one. Like, Bertrand is enhancing your physical skill damage, or at least for his active skill. I don't know. I got to think about it more, man. If you enjoyed the vid, throw a like on here, subscribe to the channel. You want to see where I covered city defense? Probably we'll learn a thing or two about the way that actually works, cards in the end screen. And until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.